Hello, everyone, and welcome to our warm-up session, Textiles Innovation in the Textiles and Fashion Innovation, Actionable Change. I'm here with a super panel of guests today. Anna-Karin Sondelius from Swedish Society for Nature Conservation, Silva Tavares from RDD Textiles, and Eric Valvring from Science Park Borås. I am Graziella Souza. I am the coordinator of the Portugal of Global Green Action Day. Just to give you a brief presentation of myself, I am a researcher and lecturer at the Faculty of Architecture of Lisbon. And I am also the special projects coordinator of Model Lisboa, Lisboa Fashion Week. And today we are here on our warm-up session for this really wonderful initiative, Global Green Action Day. And first of all, just to give you an overview of what we've been doing and what we will do in the next month, Fernanda will give you a presentation of the initiative. Thank you, Fernanda, for having me. And please tell us more.
Super, thank you, Graziella. So very quickly, so that you have a bit of an understanding why we are here and kind of a bit what is happening. So we have this initiative called Global Green Action Day, and the Global Green Action Day is part of a very ambitious journey that we have together. So we are here really to try to demonstrate the value of connecting sustainability and innovation. So what happens, the potential when we think about sustainability as a strategy for innovation. So the whole idea is that we start with training. We get together to share knowledge, share our experiences, and this is why we have this panel today also. And then we are going to come together on the 5th of June, which is the UN World Environment Day. We are going to meet online in the morning, and we are going to meet face-to-face in the afternoon. We will be in Portugal, in Austria, and in Sweden. So in Portugal, we'll be both in Lisbon and in Porto. In Austria, we meet in Vienna, and here in Sweden, we are going to meet in Stockholm. So it's really about making sure that we have this kind of journey together until we meet on the 5th of June, that we are able to learn to empower each other. And these are our partners that we are very proud of, and we are still gathering a few more partners. We have actually very, very exciting news today specifically, because we have just published yesterday the training program. So it's now open. So all this time we have been saying the training is coming on the 21st of April, we're opening. So we did, so it's now available. So for all of you who have already enrolled, you can go into the learning platform, start taking the training. It's on demand, so you can take it throughout this entire, the rest of April and the entire month of May. For those of you who have not yet joined, please do so. Please do so, and make sure that you start with module 0, because that's where we are actually collecting this content from the warm-up sessions, so that you are able to also start getting excited as we are with this journey. Thank you so much for this opportunity, Graziella, to give a bit of an introduction to the Global Green Action Day. Please take it away.
And thank you to you. I will first, after welcoming our guests, I would love to hear more about each of you, so our audience also gets to know who you are and what you're doing and the companies you are representing. Would you like to go first, Anna-Karin?
Yes, I can do so. Thank you for having me. Really glad to be here. So I work at Naturskyddsföreningen in Swedish, Swedish Society for Nature Conservation in English. And yeah, what am I doing? My title, Senior Policy Advisor for Textiles, is basically that I focus on the textile questions and work with policy shifts, incentivize, shifting norms related to textile and fashion industry. And basically what we aim for is a fashion industry within the planetary boundaries. It's not today. It's a lot of challenges connected to the textile industry. I know that you mentioned that before as well. But what we need to do is basically to prolong the life of garments and minimize new resource use. And hence our Max 5 challenge, as will be part of the Green Action Day as well. So I'm really glad to be here and looking forward to this. And I really believe in the ideas, as you shared in the beginning, that we need innovation to find new solutions and new ideas, and we need to collaborate to find those. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Anna-Karin. Looks really exciting, the challenge as well. I would now ask Ana Tavares. Would you present yourself?
Hi, hello everyone. So my name is Ana, as Graziella said, and I'm here representing RDD. RDD is a company that belongs to a broader group in Portugal named the Valerius Group. I think at the moment we probably are the biggest textile group for fashion apparel in Portugal, and RDD itself was one of the latest companies in the group to be born. We are working since 2017, very closely with our recycling center as well, which is running since 2019. And basically our mission and the reason why RDD was born inside this group is because we see that fashion is changing a lot, the way it has been performing and sourcing the last few years. And our focus is to search and develop alternative processes for the textile industry, namely using new fibers, new materials, and new processes in terms of dyeing, finishing, etc., and also incorporating recycling materials inside our core products and helping our clients, brands that work with us through this sustainable movement, which has been created inside the fashion industry, and more is also required by law as well. So basically, I think that's it, and we will have the opportunity to talk a bit more afterwards.
Thank you, Anna. I know previously your work and the companies you've been at, and I know you've been always promoting sustainability and innovation in those companies. So thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure to have you. Eric, would you like to tell us more about yourself and your work at Science Park Borås?
Yes, thank you, and hello everyone. I'm innovation strategist at Science Park Borås, which is located in the Textile Fashion Center in the west of Sweden. Some of you might also know us as Smart Textiles. So we are a project arena. We run around 50 projects simultaneously and trying to kind of transition the textile ecosystem into more circular way. Me myself is working mainly with business modeling, so circular business modeling, but we have projects all through the textile value chain. So everything from fibers to actually also working with stores and consumers. We also run an innovation environment. So we have a lab sort of with a lot of textile machines and trying to transition a lot of companies. The Science Park Borås is kind of different from other science park in the way that we are fully owned by the university. So the University of Borås and Swedish School of Textiles is owning Science Park Borås fully. We are working with a lot of companies, and we have some of the larger Swedish fashion brands as partners to us, like Lindex, Kappahl, MQ Market, and Gina Tricot, if you know those. We are also driving some networks of textile producers in Sweden, and we are right now actually setting up a node in Stockholm as well. Yes, thank you, Graciela.
And that sounds great. Super interesting. And I will follow up afterwards with some questions, Eric. So I will start with our questions first to Anna-Karin. I was wondering, since already we read your experience, your previous experience, and because you worked with H&M as well before working at, and also at Borås, we know that you were colleagues with Eric.
True.
So what do you think that from all your experience as policy advisor, what do you think are the policy shifts that you believe are most critical to accelerate for the industry to adopt circular business models?
Good question. Yeah, so basically I have a background within the fashion industry. So I've been working for many years within H&M and H&M Group, both as a buyer from buyer background and with business development and purchasing optimization, etc. But then for many years, more related to as a sustainability manager and as a circular strategy lead. So I have that background. And then I was been working at Science Park Borås, so more with academia and innovation and how to take that knowledge and to scale it up and make it applicable to companies to support them in the circular journey. And now being at Naturskyddsföreningen, which is, I should mention that it's Sweden's biggest environmental organization. It's more than 200,000 members. And it's, we have local units across Sweden. And we also have a global reach and a global collaboration. So with all that background, I can see key part for everything is always to collaborate and to be humble, to see that you will never be the one sitting on the solution on your own, because it's a systemic shift we need to find a solution for, and we need to find that together. So if we are to push for policies connected to that, to truly scale circular models that will really shift the system, I think there are a lot of stepwise changes that need to happen. But here and now, the most critical one, I should say, is producer responsibility. That the ones that put textile products on the market also need to have a responsibility for what happens next. And that needs to then be connected to some kind of fee and some kind of organization that actually utilize that fee to build up an infrastructure to take care of the textiles afterwards. Whether it's waste or whether it's for reuse. I would say right now, after 1st of January, being basically where we have regulations throughout Europe, all EU member states need to collect textile waste separately. But what is collected is basically a lot of that is just unwanted textiles. It's not waste. They are in perfect condition to be able to be reused again, but there's no demand for it. So we need to find a way to, how do we address that? How do we find scalable solutions and infrastructure to take care of those garments? And how do we reward waste prevention, product longevity, and not just recycling? And then I would say, it's producer responsibility, but we also need harmonized design requirements for circular design requirements, basically connected to durability and repairability. And then one last question, because you mentioned, or like last related to your question, is also that it's really, really, really hard for one company to change an industry. That will never happen. So it needs to be a level playing field. There needs to be common rules, common policy, and that policy needs to be based on a baseline, that the baseline is circularity. That should be the default, not the linear system as it is today. Yeah.
Totally agree, and also totally agree on the fact that the problem is on overproduction and
yes,
not necessarily how putting the blame on consumers, right? And what do you say that, since you are the largest NGO in Sweden, how can an NGO or a group of companies collaborate effectively with fashion brands and producers of textiles or producers of fashion products to promote these sustainable consumption without compromising their profit or even economic viability?
Yeah, tricky one, but it's also a really good question. I would say, I mean, what we do, what we bring to the table is that we bring public trust. We have systemic thinking. We know, I mean, we have really in-depth environmental knowledge. We know where the hotspots are. We know the planetary boundaries by heart. So we know the framework and we have a lot of knowledge. And we also have a lot of reach, both in Sweden and globally. So we can bring that to the table. But then we also need to meet with the industry, with the brands, because they have the industry know-how and they have the reach. So we need to sit together, and then we also need to combine that with innovation and entrepreneurs, because a lot of brands, both from my own experience, but I also know a lot of big brands today have a long history, a long linear history. So it's not for sure that they will be the ones that bring the circular solutions to the table. We need innovation and entrepreneurs for that. So we all need to combine our minds and see possibilities. But where I think is crucial for an NGO is, for example, like it's a very practical example, is that circular pilots should not be pilots for a marketing story or for something to share short term and then just go on and do a new pilot. You need to be scalable to have a meaningful impact. And I think that's when an NGO can also ask, okay, great that you're testing this pilot. How will you scale it up? And what about the replacement rates? How much will this actually replace production of new goods? And I think that's that's an important role that we have, to really focus on a systemic shift rather than quick wins, and to have the long-term perspective. But then, of course, again, related back to Max 5 Challenge, which is a campaign that we started last year and have been really successful and have been shared enormously. It's both focusing on customer behavior and saying, hey, if we are to have a fashion industry within the planetary boundaries, max 5 new products a year. That's what's a fair share for all, because that's also something we can't. I mean, everyone needs clothes, but then we need to have a fair share where everyone can actually access clothes. So that's max 5. But the solution to still enjoy fashion and to still like be creative and really communicate your identity is then circular business models, is secondhand, and it's remake, and it's swapping, and it's all of it, it's repair. It's a lot of alternatives to still access much more than 5 garments a year, but in new ways. And there we can also be a voice and discuss that both with customers and with brands. And I'm hoping to do so much more for future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna-Karin. And really, the Max 5 campaign is super interesting, and I really want to know more and hope to be able to contribute, because I know it's going to be one of the challenges on our event on the 5th June. So it appears really, really exciting and a lot to learn from this. Thank you. I will move now and ask Anna Tavares. We have 2 Annas, so I keep saying your second names. So specifically at RDD, how do you balance technological innovation with environmental responsibility while developing sustainable textile solutions for the brands that look for you or to propose to your clients?
Good question. So basically, as I said before, so our focus is on scaling up technologies that are alternatives to the textile industry, and one of our biggest challenge is the scale up of these technologies, but also then having the brands engaged on more than pilots, as Anna was mentioning before, because actually what our business model, or what we try to do, is to find these technologies together with partners, startups, wherever, and compare the technologies that are emerging with the conventional ones, to see if the environmental responsibility, as you mentioned, is really there, or if it's just kind of like hidden parameter or whatever, because we feel that sometimes, especially now on this chaotic movement around sustainability, we find out sometimes technologies that are not really focused on the full process, but also on a specific topic. Let's say that, for example, with recycling, sometimes we might have processes that are giving us as an output a recycled material, but the process that is done is not exactly better, or if we do a life cycle assessment, for example, is not exactly better than the virgin material that we could use instead. So what we try to do is to analyze deeply the technologies that are proposed to us to scale up, and see if this can meet the requirements that we believe that are important to have really good alternatives to the technologies that we have in place at the moment. And we try to do this through life cycle assessment, as I said, when testing these technologies in terms of water consumption, chemical consumption, also power consumption, and also on the end of life of the materials that we are creating, because sometimes we might believe that an alternative material could be better, but then if we perform tests of durability, for example, they might be less well performed than they should be compared to the original versions. So this is a ongoing process. It's a journey, and we have no fixed answers for different kinds of technologies that we test. We always need to analyze it and do the full assessment before we can have an opinion.
Thank you, Anna. It's hard work, right, to test all these things and to assess how will be the actual effects on, and what's the difference. What strategies, and regarding these technological innovations that you are able to scale up and that prove to be good, let's say, prove to be better than the way you used to do them, what were the strategies that have proven effective in one? Can you give us one example, and how do you measure these impacts? Could you give us some example of something that you already did?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have different examples. One of them is the recycled materials, as I mentioned before, the incorporation of recycled materials in our core products. So we did a very long journey to create materials that are performing almost as well as the original version. So our strategy is basically try to look to what we have in terms of core materials, what brands want to use, what kind of materials are top sellers, let's say, and see how we can improve these materials in order for us to be able to propose these to our clients to substitute the original version that they were using before. This is done with recycling, but also on the dyeing part, for example, we have tested different kinds of dyeing technologies, natural dyeing and dyeing with microorganisms, for example. This was a journey that we made together with the Colorifix, for example, is one of the company providers for these technologies. We have installed this bioreactor in order to grow the microorganisms that produce the pigment that enable us to dye with this liquor instead of using conventional dye stuffs. And basically, what we do there is compare all the results that we have using these dyeing materials, compare also the colors that we are able to provide, let's say, and send to our clients what are the hypotheses that they have to choose this kind of technology instead of choosing the conventional dyeing. Of course, there are a lot of barriers, and even if we think that our strategy, also marketing and this kind of thing, can be good enough to catch the attention of brands to this kind of for this kind of technologies, sometimes we feel that we have some barriers that most of the times in the people mindset, in my opinion, that always leads people to think that alternative materials are not good compared to the original, to the conventional version. So I think we need to find also other strategies in order to give more information and to teach people, especially not the end consumer, but people that are also consumers but working in brands that are buyers, designers, whatever, for them to have deeper knowledge in these kind of technologies, for that make them or that makes easier for them to understand that these are good alternatives and that they should consider instead of just looking for conventional materials, and also try to explain them and to show them using data like life cycle assessments and open doors of factories that are working, creating really nice solutions for them to see in local how they could be doing their products and how they could influence and change the fashion industry ecosystem.
Thank you. I think you also answered my third question.
Sorry,
because I was asking if I was going to ask you about the companies, the clients' acceptance of your innovations, and I was wondering. So the bigger barrier, you say, is cultural, maybe mindset, and would you say there's other barriers that we should know about?
Mm-hmm. Well, depending on so people's mindset for sure is the biggest one. For me, is the biggest one because brands, like new brands or smaller brands that are born or that were born with this sustainable business model in mind, they are already looking for these kind of solutions and only for this kind of solutions. So in the end, they will choose between the better options, the one that they consider the best. But when we are talking about older brands and maybe bigger brands as well, we know that their business model is in place for long time, when we had no clue about sustainability and about how things would change. Like, this word was not on the table of the fashion brands and buyers, and it's a little bit more difficult to change. But apart from that, also depending on the stage where, like, how you can find the technologies, in which stage, price-wise, it can be a challenge as well for the brands to include these kind of technologies, because this is like a circle, so technologies are costly to scale up, but then when you scale, or to scale them up, you need investment from companies, from producers, but also from brands that believe on these technologies. But then in order to scale up, you also need, it's not only a technical issue, is also having volume. So when you have the conditions to scale up these to industrial production, you need someone to buy it, and for someone to buy this is also costly, and then so you are always going around. And then if nobody is betting on these technologies, it's very difficult for companies, the creators and also the producers, to scale this up like faster. So price is the second one for me, and then the third one is performance, because we know that we are working with different technologies, but not all of them can perform exactly as we are used to, and actually losing like comfort and some kind of performance parameters that as like end consumers are used to is not good, and brands don't want to risk to propose this to the market. But one of the best examples I can give is like elastane. Everybody's trying to taking out elastane from clothes, but then when you buy jeans or these kind of things, people like to have the elastane there because in terms of comfort is much better. So these are the three barriers for me, the most important ones. And hopefully we are trying to find a way to overcome those, but yeah, still working on it.
It's a balance too. Thank you, Anna. And now Eric, last but definitely not least, it's very interesting, the case of the University of Borås, because you run so many different projects, and you have such a big take on innovation and the connection with actual companies, and it's a real case study in the European context, and also in the universal context. Through the initiatives that you've been working and developing, what are the common challenges that you have observed in companies when transitioning to circular models, and how do you think these should be addressed?
Yes, well, I agree a bit with Anna and Anna-Karin. I mean, I think all of us kind of see that there's a kind of circular ecosystem. So in my opinion, there is some general challenges, like thinking new around the business model and the business idea. But if I would dig down a bit and think about what are the common challenges, I would say that one is definitely that many companies, especially the ones that have a linear model today, they have not really come to insight that circularity is kind of a disruptive force. So they have worked with sustainability, where you can set up goals and you can improve things and you can get better. Your sustainability can get better. But when it comes to circularity, it's kind of a disruptive. You need to rethink your business model and you need to explore that. And many companies, they are so used to their linear kind of business model thinking, so they don't really challenge their business model. And therefore, it's hard for them to transition into something else that is more circular. So recognizing that circularity and circular business models is more of a disruptive innovation force is one thing that I think many companies could benefit from. Another thing that we see is that a lot of, especially big companies, they have been negotiating in the value chain pretty hard. So basically they want the same quality or better quality to a lower price. And that has caused a dialogue in the value chain that is not very suitable for circularity. So you have to kind of switch from negotiating prices in the value chain to more of a cooperation and value networks. And that is also a hard transition for many companies to understand, we need to work together with our suppliers on finding the solutions. And that you are not only a buyer, you're also a customer to the supplier, and think about that. And the third thing is, of course, measuring. So a lot of companies are extremely good at measuring what they do, but they measure in a linear way. So they have all these metrics, all these direct metrics where they can measure things. And when they start doing circular models, the quick KPIs are not there. And that's because they are measuring the circularity in a linear way. So I typically say that what you need to do is to measure more indirect values from the start. So when moving to circularity, you need to measure indirect things and what impact it has on your business rather than the actual profit. Of course, that is important too, but you need to be careful what you are measuring. So addressing this, I would say you have to reckon that circularity is kind of a disruptive, and you need to work harder on your business modeling than just use the regular methods that you use. And you need to think about cooperation in the value chain, and you also need to be careful what you're measuring. So that are at least three of them. And I think that one thing is kind of a mindset that once you start thinking about circularity as an ecosystem that needs to run again and again, it affects the business very much, rather than, everyone is used to, we produce things and then we leave it. But as soon as you take care of it, you also need to understand the full circle. So even though if you have a small portion of the circular, the whole circle, so to speak, you still need to understand the full circle. And that is also new for many companies. You are focusing and you are optimizing your business, but now you have to optimize the full circle, even though you might not be controlling the full circle.
That sounds interesting, but also very challenging. And we keep speaking about mindset and also about the need to collaborate in order to make actionable change, to make it happen. So I would like to ask you as well, these are in terms of public and private, the mix between public and private sectors, and the collaboration between the two of them, especially because you are the Science Park Boroughs belongs to the university. How can you foster innovation in sustainable textiles and fashion as well? And would you like to share success stories that can exemplify this synergy?
You mean between the private and public sector? Yeah. Let me try here to share an example that shows a lot of my points.
After all the slides actually happened.
Sorry, do you see the screen?
No.
Yeah.
Now we do. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So this is just an example where I think lots of those things come to play. So once you start thinking about the ecosystem, I think that government plays a big role in the shift to more circularity, in the way that it can place orders to startup to get the circular ecosystem going. What you see here is a rather old example. It's some years now, but it's still going. It's working clothes for a festival in Sweden called Way Out West. And the reason, what started all this is that a government, they did a negotiation on workwear for healthcare people at the government. And then there was a lot of workwear, the healthcare clothes over. So the workwear company contacted us. And the reason why they contacted us was that we had started a project called Circular Government or Circular Municipality, just working towards the government in order to get them to place order to startups. And they contacted us and saying, we have all these working clothes over. We don't know what to do with them. So we engaged a designer, Stina Randestad, and we engaged production companies here in Borås, XP Production, and we did some printing with the company that can print and unprint things. And then we created working clothes for the festival workers from this. And if you think of all the different companies that have been part of this, it's really hard for them to try to get their products or services out to the market. But this became a context where the government was leading. So I think that in most of these cases, the government or the big company, they're looking for one supplier that can fix all the circularity. But in this specific case, there were a lot of companies that could fix it, but there needed to be someone that put all this together. And there, I think the government plays a role, or the municipalities plays a role in doing that, and not just looking for one supplier that can fix it, and then they don't find anyone, so they don't do it. So what we did, we tried to put all this together, and the clothes came out to the festival, and now it has gone into some rental business. And they're also looking at merchandise and other stuff in order to have this circular as well. So it has become a business of itself. And I think that this example addresses a lot of the things in this, that you need to handle several suppliers, you need to have trustworthy connections to all the companies. And there, I think the municipalities and even we as a university play a role in having these long, trustworthy relationships and binding things together. So I was talking a bit earlier about the value network and cooperation, and in these kind of places, I think that the governmental and municipalities and public plays a big role to get that going.
It's a super interesting example. Thank you, Eric, for bringing it. I think if any of you want to add something, we could go there now, or maybe add some. We have questions from our audience.
Yes,
would you like to? So first, I would say if any of you wants to add something to your answers, maybe now that you have all been answering my questions.
Well, I can add one thing. I think Anna-Karin was talking about it, the EU regulations and all that. So I think there's multiple forces in place here, and I think it's very exciting to see how the EU regulations, together with new technology, as Anna was talking about, and also the awareness, all these forces plays into what is happening right now. And I think that is really interesting to see that there's a big movement right now. So I'm very much more hopeful than I were like a year ago, because of all these forces really working hard now, and we see a lot of examples and a lot of new corporations coming into place that we have wished for a long time, but now we see them really happen, and a lot of companies are investing. So I think that's really great to see. it's an exciting time.
There's hope for our industry then.
Absolutely.
Especially because of people like the three of you. And thank you so much. So, Evelina, do we have questions?
Yes, we do. So hello, everybody, also from my side. I'm part of the Global Green Action Day co-initiator team. I'm super happy to listen to all of you today. So I'm going to pick up one question from the chat. We just got another one, but let's start with this one. And the question is what our speakers think of kind of an approach focusing on the various communities along the value creation chain, also not only environmental impact, but also social impact and kind of empowering social growth in communities along the value creation chain. So yeah, like also the social aspect to the fashion industry and textile industry. Do you have any comments on that as well? Also, we mustn't forget the social impact side of this industry as well. Any comments?
Yeah, I can start maybe. Great question, and really good that you highlight this. Fully agree. I can say one of the backgrounds of the framing of Max 5 is, of course, a fashion industry within the planet boundaries, yes, but also a fashion industry that everyone can access and everyone have a fair share to. And if we look at, we're talking about that, I think Erik, you mentioned that as well, but like the whole value chain or the whole production, if you trace backwards, the fashion industry create an enormous amount of work. You could really question those conditions. There have been an enormous lot of reports recently connected to ultra-fast fashion, but those challenges are for sure for the fashion industry as a whole and for the both fast and ultra-fast fashion. So we need to address that. But we could also see a systemic shift towards circular business models, meaning this is also job creations. And now we're starting to create those jobs. And then we can also set better conditions. And we could start to regulate that from the beginning, because regardless of all the EU regulations coming, the fashion industry as a whole is really unregulated and it's really global. So it's a lot of awful working conditions related to the fashion industry. So if we are to create new circular business models, that means we are creating new circular jobs, you could say. And what conditions do we then want to have for those jobs? That is an opportunity, but also a challenge. But it's also to think about, okay, what happened when we do that shift? Because now the industry is really globalized and is really outsourced, or like the production being mainly in Asia. What happened if we say that, okay, we need to decrease the amount of linear production of new clothes, and we need to address new business models that most likely will also be in different parts of the world, maybe also closer to a more local production, at least if you talk about repair and remake and those etc. So what happened then? That we also are shifting where the job opportunities are. That's also an area we need to address. Then maybe we need to have upscale, like skilling upscale opportunities, see how will the local communities where production are based today, how will those be affected? And then third part is also that communities can also be a great contributor to accessing and sharing fashion. So next Saturday we have every year Naturskyddsföreningen have Stora klädbytardagen, which is basically, that's in Swedish but in English then, the big clothing swapping day. We have it every year. Last year we have it twice, both on spring and autumn. Most likely we have it this year as well, because it's enormous amount of engagement. So it's basically local units organizing swapping in your community. And that's also a great way to see that you can, okay, maybe it's something that you don't need any longer, but it has value for someone else. So you can change the norms slightly about clothes still have value even if you don't need it. You can find what you need without buying more. And you can also get closer to friends and your community by meeting and sharing things. So there are a lot of opportunities, but it is definitely a lot of challenges. And we can never talk about the fashion industry's challenges without mentioning and focusing also on the social aspects, because today enormous amount of people are working with awful conditions within the fashion industry, and that need to change. Circular jobs could be one possibility.
Yeah, that's awesome. You actually also answered the second question that popped into the chat now about clothes swapping examples of maybe larger scale clothes swapping initiatives. I know that I live in a very small kind of village in Austria, and we have a clothes swapping here in a couple of weeks' time.
Glad to hear.
Yeah, it's really nice. But I was thinking maybe if Anna or Erik, do you want to comment also on either clothes swapping events or kind of the social impact side?
I can comment as well. So I think that there are two different things, and one of them is like being a producer in Portugal. I have to be honest and say that the environmental part of the sustainable development is much more on our focus than social, because thank God we are working in a country that is not facing severe conditions or social issues in textile production. So we have different kinds of laws and regulations that do not allow that this happen. But of course, when we think about competition itself, and we know that one of the biggest competitors for price-wise, is Asia. But this is, for me, it's a problem that is not only on the fashion industry, it's a systemic change that is needed, because we face these in any kind of production. It doesn't matter if it's textiles, steel, plastics, whatever. Asia is always cheaper than producing in Europe, and the conditions that are provided there to the workers in any kind of industry might be so in doubt. But this is something that for me cannot be solved only within the fashion ecosystem. So it needs it needs something else. So it needs something that goes deeper on the conditions that workers have in these countries, because actually regulations allow any kind of brand, company, whatever, to produce in Asia and import to any kind of place in the world without having knowledge of what's going on there, and maybe also in other countries. And then also the end of life of garments, and as Europeans, we are also contributing for some other kind of social problems when sending clothes to Africa in huge amounts of clothes that they don't need, and they don't have the conditions to handle it. So it causes social problems as well, not related to textile jobs or let's say jobs, but also to the conditions that people live there, and how these countries are becoming really full of waste because of our behavior. And we need also to find solutions here in Europe on how the society will handle the waste that we create every day. This is also part of the social problems that the fashion industry and others create as well, that we need to be solving as soon as possible.
Awesome. We actually have another question also in the chat, which is more related to kind of ethical and I guess also practical questions around renting clothes. or renting out clothes. And this question was specifically for medical professions. I don't know if you, because it could, I don't know, it could potentially be not sanitary, or also ethical questions about having clothes, also kind of discarded clothes from Central Europe being used somewhere in the global South, something like that. Are those any questions that you've come across in any other context as well, or similar kind of ethical questions around similar topics?
Well, of course, if you come to contamination, I think that today there is a great system for that. I mean, your companies are handling that very much today, the contamination part. So I think that is, of course, important, but not any specific issue to this. We had an interesting example here in Sweden related to the logos and naming, etc., in clothes, which often is a problem when you circulate things, where the municipalities thought that it's important to have our logo printed here when we do care at homes, because the patients will recognize that this is an authorized personnel. So one of the municipalities, they tried to take that away, and then they asked the patients, what do you think about, us not having the logo here? And they say, well, that's easy to fake, so that doesn't matter. So and that caused a lot of municipalities being able to circulate clothes between different areas of Sweden, rather than have just those clothes for that specific area. So I think that there's a lot of shift and a lot of testing done in all of these areas, which is really exciting to see. So we often talk about, all these regulations and what regulations are actually important and what do we need to change.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Erik, for that. Okay, I think we are done with the questions. I really appreciate all the answers, and I also want to encourage all of you who are listening, maybe to share more links in the chat, especially related to clothes swapping events, but also other links that you might think be interesting for this community. So over to you again, Graciela.
I think we have to close our session. It's been a pleasure to listen to all of your insights and experience, and I hope that we can keep on collaborating for a better fashion industry that does things better to the environment, to people, and also that can contribute to a different way of making things in the next few months and years. I hope we can join maybe in the upcoming sessions. And thank you so much. I've learned a lot throughout this hour. I have many notes, and I will follow up on them probably over emails. It's been a real pleasure to listen to all of you, and thank you, Fernanda and Evelina and Amir as well, that's not on the session, for giving us this initiative, and let's keep in touch. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a nice week.